Away from the Tzion, the Heilige Tzion of Meir Balanes. So of course we're going to speak as we normally do when we're actually standing by the Tzion. We'll speak a little about, of course, about Meir Balanes and the koiches that he gives us. But just to mention, before we get there on the bus, there's a couple of ideas just to understand who we're going to. So Stam Mishnah, which we find many times, whenever there's Mishnayos, you learn Mishnayos, Stam Mishnah is always Reb Meir. So any Mishnah that doesn't say who it is automatically going to be Reb Meir, which means that he's one of, in fact it's brought down, he's one of the most mentioned Tanoim in the Mishnayos. So one of the 5 primary Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva, got Smicha from Rabbi Akiva, along with, for example, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. So it was around that time. He was a son-in-law of Rabbi Chanina ben Tradion, who was one of the Asura Ruge Malchus, who was of course burned at the stake, where they wrapped his Sefer Torah around him and they burned him in that way. And his name actually, in fact, was not Meir, even though he's known as the Tanner of Meir Balanes. His name was actually not Meir, his name was Naharoi. So why did they call him Meir? The reason they changed his name, because Meir means light, and he offered up so much light to teaching Torah to Klal Yisrael, teaching to his Talmidim and the future generations, so they actually changed his name from Naharoi to Meir in that way. Now, we could spend hours and hours of going through different Gemaras in Shas about Rabbi Meir in that case, about how, for example, one of the most famous cases of Rabbi Meir's Rebi that went off the derech, his name was Acher, was named Acher. In fact, the prostitute was the person that actually named him Acher, and he continues to learn from his Rebi even after his Rebi went off the derech. And the Gemara tells us that he basically convinced him to do tshuva as he was leaving the world, right before he was nifta. Reb Meir was zoicha to help his Rebi to do tshuva in that case over there. In fact, it's interesting, the Chazal tell us that Reb Meir was zoicha to give hundreds of misholim. He used to use foxes as misholim. The question one can ask is, like, Reb Meir was an absolute genius, a Godel Ador Mamish. What's this idea of stories of foxes? So perhaps we can say the idea is that he was also, of course, being the Godel Ador, of relating and giving Torah and debating with other Gedolim, but he also had the ability to relate to even the small little kids, of giving stories and misholim of foxes to make them interested in Torah. He did whatever he could do in order that they should learn Torah in that way. Now, Reb Meir's wife is a famous woman in Shas, Bruria, mentioned many times in Shas. Interestingly enough, she was the daughter of Hananiah ben Tirajoin, and it's the only women that's mentioned in Shas through halachas. It seems like almost she interjected when Reb Meir, her husband, was giving shir, so she sort of interjected in the speeches, and her name is quoted many times with different halachas. She stood her ground tremendously, and one famous meiser is, the Gemara tells us that Reb Meir had certain people in the neighborhood that used to drive him crazy. Right, the Gemara Brachos, the guys learned this month, and they were driving him a shiga, so much so that Reb Meir said, I'm just going to daven that they die. I just can't cope with these people. What do you want from me? So he started to daven that they die. And Reb Meir's wife, Bruria, said, don't daven that they die. Die that the sin dies. Die for the sin to leave, not the sinner to leave. And that's exactly what happened. He started to daven that the sin went away and not the sinner, and they actually did tshuva in that case. So we're talking about someone who was extremely powerful, someone that had tremendous koiches, and someone that's mentioned all over Mishnahs and all over Shas. Be'ez Hashem, by the Tzion, we're going to mention 2 specific Gemaras that relate to us, that we can understand, and Be'ez Hashem, hopefully, Be'ez Hashem, all of our tefillahs by the Tzion of Halig Meir Balanes will be Mekabel L'Toiva.